I don't see the fetters as boxes that we move in and out of. It's a circular process. It's like everything else in life. It's that moving wave of life that is happening. What I'm talking about today is just as relevant today as it is when you are further along in your fetter work process. So far, we have talked about the selfing. You are now aware that you have hearing, seeing, tasting, smelling, touching. Those are the senses. And then you have the mind. And the mind is being. However, whenever we think, the mind is thinking. And it's kind of like a crossroad that we are taking. That we are at the point where we have the mind. And if the mind is thinking, the mind is always thinking about something. It always has a topic. It's always about something that needs to be explored or looked into or twisted or turned or something. And the mind is always doing that. The next stop is the selfing, because thinking is selfing. And selfing is where you put an I in the middle of everything, and everything is just evolving around that I, around that ego. So the viewpoint of everything is from the selfing, and then observing what is happening and assuming what is happening and judging about what is happening. That is the selfing. The other road and the crossroad is you have the mind and you have being. And in that you have the same direct purity as you have with seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, and touching. So mind is being. The second thing that you have become aware of so far is that the selfing that you have, where you put yourself in the middle of it, makes you not present. It puts you either in the future or in the past. The ego is never here. The ego is never present. That is the being. The ego is always in the past or in the future. So you have expectations about the future, you have regrets about the past. And that makes it very complicated to be in a conversation with you, because you're never present. You're never there. You are not even questioning what you're hearing. You assume that you hear what the other person is saying. The last exercise that you had in the last lesson, we looked into being present in a conversation and not assuming what you're hearing, but really see, can you ever hear what the other person is saying? Or is there always an assumption added to what another person is saying? And can you enter a conversation unprepared? Can you be in a conversation and just being, not preparing yourself on what you're going to reply, but just being? Can you allow silence to be present in a conversation and just see what comes up, what evolves in the silence, in the presence with the other person? That was the last lesson. If you need to revisit that, then pause right now, go back and listen to the other one, so that is completely settled in you, because you need those things settled before we move on to the lesson that we have today. Fetter work is not about increasing knowledge. It's about decreasing attachment. And I would like to repeat that. It's not about you getting more clever. It's not about you increasing your knowledge. It's about becoming aware of the detachments that you have in your life and decreasing those. And that's fetter work. And that's also why we can't put it into boxes, because we are all in different places in our lives, in our emotional and psychological and biological development. There's some things which you can't talk to a 2-year-old or 10-year-old, because those parts of the brain, like reasoning, they're not fully developed yet. So it's not, the biological being is not there to actually talk about those things. And it's the same with the psychological being, that there's some things that you need to have insights about before you can have that psychological development. And all that creates attachment. And what we're doing with the fetter work is decreasing that attachment, in looking at what is really there and not what do I assume is there.